My sister locked my severely asthmatic daughter in a dusty basement during a party and nearly unalived her over a lost inheritance, but later our grandfather made my daughter his sole heir after finding out the truth, and now she is going crazy. 2 days ago, my sister Rhonda, 42F, did something so horrible to my daughter Amanda, 14F, that I'm still struggling to process it. I've known Rhonda could be spiteful, but I never imagined she'd endanger a child's life just to prove a point. Amanda was diagnosed with severe asthma and multiple allergies when she was just a baby. Her father left us shortly after her diagnosis, claiming he couldn't handle a sick child, so I've been raising her alone with help from my family. Amanda's condition requires constant monitoring and immediate medical intervention during bad episodes. She's been hospitalized multiple times throughout her life, and everyone in our family knows how serious her condition is. My sister Rhonda has always had issues with the attention Amanda receives because of her health problems. When we were growing up, Rhonda was used to being the center of attention as the eldest child. After Amanda was born and started having health issues, our parents naturally spent more time helping me with her medical care. Rhonda never got over this perceived slight, even after having her own son Tyler, 16M. Last Saturday was Tyler's birthday party at Rhonda's house. Amanda had been having breathing difficulties that morning, but she really wanted to attend because she and Tyler are close. They're only 2 years apart and have always gotten along well. I agreed to let her go since I would be there to monitor her condition, and I brought all her medication, including her nebulizer, just in case. We arrived at Rhonda's house around 2 p.m. The moment we walked in, I could tell Rhonda was in one of her moods. She kept making snide comments about how Amanda always needs special treatment and how she better not ruin Tyler's special day. I tried to ignore her attitude. After 14 years of this behavior, I'm used to it. Amanda was managing okay with her regular inhaler, though I could tell she wasn't feeling her best. The party was going fine for the first couple of hours. There were about 20 kids from Tyler's school, plus various family members. Around 4 p.m., Amanda came to me saying she was having trouble breathing and needed to use her nebulizer. This is completely normal during her bad days. The nebulizer treatments usually take about 15 to 20 minutes, and then she's fine. I took her to a quiet corner of the living room to help her with the treatment. That's when Rhonda completely lost it. She stormed over to us, face red with anger, and started yelling about how the nebulizer's noise would disturb the party atmosphere. She accused Amanda of trying to steal attention from Tyler again, saying she always pulls these stunts during family gatherings. I tried explaining that this wasn't some bid for attention, it was a necessary medical treatment, but Rhonda wouldn't listen. She grabbed Amanda's arm and said she knew a quiet place where Amanda could use her nebulizer without bothering anyone. At that exact moment, one of Tyler's friends had spilled juice all over himself and another kid, and I turned to help them clean up. I trusted my sister. Despite her attitude, she'd never physically harmed Amanda before. That was the biggest mistake of my life. After about 15 minutes of helping with the spill and making sure no other kids were slipping on the wet floor, I realized I couldn't find Amanda anywhere. I asked Rhonda where she was, and she casually mentioned that Amanda was in the basement using her nebulizer. Something felt wrong immediately. Amanda's nebulizer was still in the living room where I'd left it. I went to check the basement door, only to find it locked. When I demanded the key from Rhonda, she refused, saying Amanda needed to learn not to be so dramatic all the time. She said she'd let her out after Tyler cut his cake, which wasn't planned for another hour. I started panicking. The basement in Rhonda's house is unfinished and full of dust, which is a major trigger for Amanda's asthma. I completely lost it at this point. I started screaming at Rhonda to give me the key, telling her that Amanda was down there without her medication. Rhonda just rolled her eyes and said I was being hysterical as usual. Some of the party guests started noticing the commotion, but no one intervened. Finally, our father Henry, 68M, who was at the party, stepped in and forced Rhonda to hand over the key. When we got Amanda out of the basement, she was having one of the worst asthma attacks I've ever seen. The dust had triggered a severe reaction, and without her medication, her condition had deteriorated rapidly. She could barely breathe and her lips were turning blue. We rushed her to the hospital, where she was immediately admitted to the ICU. The doctors managed to stabilize her, but they said if we'd waited even a little longer to get her out of that basement, things could have been much worse. Amanda is still in the hospital, and the doctors want to keep her under observation for at least a few more days. Rhonda is now telling everyone that I'm overreacting and that she was just trying to keep Amanda from ruining Tyler's party. The most infuriating part is that some family members are actually defending her, saying she probably didn't realize how serious Amanda's condition was. This is complete nonsense. Rhonda has been present for numerous hospitalizations and emergency room visits throughout Amanda's life. She knows exactly how dangerous asthma attacks can be. I filed a police report against Rhonda for endangering Amanda. Our mother, 65F, is beside herself, begging me to withdraw the complaint. She keeps saying we shouldn't let this destroy the family, that Rhonda probably didn't mean any harm. But I can't and won't back down. Someone who deliberately puts a child's life at risk doesn't deserve forgiveness, sister or not. The only person fully supporting my decision is our grandfather Henry. He's always been especially close to Amanda and understands the severity of her condition. He was there when we found her in the basement and saw how bad it was. Right now, I'm staying at the hospital with Amanda, who's understandably traumatized by what happened. I haven't spoken to Rhonda since that day, and honestly, I don't plan to ever again. Some lines can't be uncrossed. Update 1. I need to update everyone on what's been happening since my last post. The situation has gotten even more disturbing than I initially thought, and now she is going crazy. The hospital finally released Amanda's complete medical report from the incident, and it's horrifying. The emergency room doctor who treated her wrote that her oxygen saturation was dangerously low when we brought her in, below 80%. For reference, anything under 90% is considered a severe asthma attack. The report explicitly stated that if we had delayed getting her out of that basement even 30 minutes longer, she could have suffered permanent brain damage or worse. The police detective assigned to our case took one look at the medical report and immediately escalated the investigation. They are now treating this as a serious case of child endangerment. I had to give a detailed statement about every incident where Rhonda had shown hostility toward Amanda's condition, which took nearly 3 hours because there were so many instances over the years. But the most shocking development came yesterday when Tyler visited Amanda in the hospital. He broke down crying as soon as he saw her and confessed something that made my blood run cold. This wasn't the first time Rhonda had locked Amanda somewhere during family gatherings. Last Christmas, when Amanda had gone upstairs to rest during our family dinner because she wasn't feeling well, Rhonda had followed her up and locked her in the guest bedroom. She then came back downstairs and told everyone that Amanda had gone home early because she was tired. Tyler said he heard Amanda calling for help, but his mom had convinced him that Amanda was just being dramatic again and needed to learn to stop seeking attention. The guest bedroom incident wasn't an isolated event either. Tyler revealed that his mom had locked Amanda in various rooms at least 3 other times during family gatherings over the past year. Each time, she told everyone a different story about where Amanda had gone. Tyler felt terrible for not telling us sooner, but Rhonda had manipulated him into believing she was doing this for Amanda's own good. She told him that Amanda needed to learn to be less dependent on her medications and that forcing her to manage without them would make her stronger. The detective obtained a warrant to review Rhonda's home security footage from the past year. What they found was sickening. Multiple clips showed Rhonda deliberately hiding Amanda's spare inhaler during previous visits to her house. She would wait until Amanda set it down somewhere, then take it and hide it in different places, once even throwing it in the outdoor trash bin. She had been systematically trying to downplay Amanda's condition for years, telling other family members that I was exaggerating her illness for attention and that Amanda was just a hypochondriac like me. When the police showed the security footage to my parents, they finally stopped defending Rhonda. My mom broke down completely and spent an hour apologizing to me for not believing me sooner. She admitted that Rhonda had been feeding her lies about me exaggerating Amanda's condition for years, saying things like I was using Amanda's illness to manipulate the family and get extra help and attention. Mom said she'd started to believe it because Rhonda was so convincing and seemed so concerned about Amanda's well-being. The damage to Amanda has been severe. She's developed severe anxiety attacks whenever she's in enclosed spaces now. Even elevator rides trigger panic attacks. Her pulmonologist says the trauma from the basement incident has actually made her asthma worse. Apparently, severe stress can worsen asthma symptoms, and she's now having more frequent attacks than before. She's also refusing to go to any family gatherings, even the ones at my parents' house where Rhonda won't be present. Tyler is also struggling with guilt. He's been skipping school and barely eating, blaming himself for not speaking up sooner about his mom's behavior. I've tried telling him that none of this is his fault, he's just a kid who was manipulated by his mother, but he's having a hard time forgiving himself. His dad, Rhonda's ex-husband, is trying to get full custody now after learning about what happened. The extended family is finally starting to see Rhonda for who she really is, but some of them are still trying to minimize what she did. My Aunt Beth, Mom's sister, had the nerve to suggest that maybe Rhonda has some undiagnosed mental health issues and needs help rather than punishment. While that may be true, it doesn't excuse what she did to Amanda. Mental health issues don't justify deliberately endangering a child's life multiple times. I've gotten a restraining order against Rhonda to keep her away from Amanda, and we're moving forward with the criminal charges. Some family members are still pressuring me to drop the case, saying it will destroy Rhonda's life if she has a criminal record. But what about Amanda's life? What about the trauma she'll have to deal with for years to come? I won't back down on this. Rhonda needs to face consequences for what she did. Update 2. Yesterday, Grandfather Henry called an emergency family meeting at his house. He asked everyone to come, my parents, Rhonda, me, all the aunts and uncles, and even some of the adult cousins. Amanda stayed home because she still gets anxious in family gatherings, and Tyler was with his dad for the weekend. I knew something big was coming when I saw grandfather's lawyer was there too. Grandfather started the meeting by recounting every major medical crisis Amanda has faced since birth. He had kept detailed records of her hospitalizations, procedures, and the countless times Rhonda had dismissed or minimized Amanda's condition. Then he dropped the bombshell: he was changing his will. Instead of dividing his substantial trust fund equally among all 8 grandchildren as originally planned, he was making Amanda the sole beneficiary. The room exploded in chaos. My cousins started shouting about unfairness, but grandfather silenced them all with a slam of his cane on the floor. He explained that this wasn't about playing favorites, it was about ensuring Amanda would always have funds for her medical care since he no longer trusted the family to look out for her interests. He'd structured the trust so that all medical expenses would be covered first, with the remainder available for her education and future needs. Rhonda stormed out of the meeting, and my aunts followed, trying to calm her down. But that wasn't the end of it. Around 8 p.m. last night, Rhonda showed up at our house completely unhinged. And now she is going crazy. She was screaming so loud that our elderly neighbor Mrs. Peterson came out to see what was happening. Rhonda was accusing me of manipulating grandfather Henry, saying I'd been planning this for years. She claimed I'd exaggerated Amanda's condition since birth just to gain sympathy and eventually secure the inheritance. I tried to close the door, but Rhonda forced her way into our front hall. She was getting more hysterical by the minute, saying I'd ruined her life and turned everyone against her. That's when she finally revealed the real reason behind her years of resentment toward Amanda. Apparently, when Amanda was born and diagnosed with severe asthma and allergies, our parents made a difficult decision. They had promised Rhonda their vacation property in Lake George as a wedding gift. It was worth about $300,000 at the time. But Amanda's early medical treatments were extremely expensive, and insurance wasn't covering everything. So they sold the property and used the money to pay for Amanda's treatments. Rhonda had been counting on that property. She and her then fiancé, not Tyler's dad, she was engaged to someone else before, had already made plans to turn it into a bed and breakfast. When our parents sold it, her fiancé backed out of the wedding, saying he couldn't marry someone with no assets or business prospects. She's been bitter about this for 14 years, blaming a sick child for losing both her inheritance and her first chance at marriage. The confrontation got so heated that multiple neighbors called the police. When they arrived, Rhonda was in the middle of destroying our front garden, ripping out plants and throwing lawn ornaments. She was screaming that Amanda had ruined her life twice now, first with a vacation house and now with grandfather's trust fund. The police had to physically remove her from our property. Grandfather came over this morning to check on us. He said he'd been considering this change to his will even before the basement incident, having watched Rhonda's behavior toward Amanda deteriorate over the years. The recent events just confirmed what he'd already suspected, that Rhonda's resentment ran too deep to ever be resolved, and Amanda would need protection from the family rather than support from them. I filed for a more permanent restraining order against Rhonda. After last night's display, even my parents agree it's necessary. Mom finally admitted that they should have handled the vacation house situation differently, maybe taken out a loan instead of selling it. But as I told her, none of that justifies trying to harm an innocent child. Update 3. A lot has happened since my last update. The district attorney's office reviewed all the evidence, the security footage, hospital records, witness statements from Tyler and other family members, and the documented history of Amanda's medical conditions. They've decided to press formal charges against Rhonda for child endangerment. The prosecutor said the deliberate and repeated nature of her actions, combined with her knowledge of Amanda's condition, makes this a particularly serious case. Rhonda was arrested last week and released on bail. She's still maintaining she did nothing wrong, telling anyone who'll listen that this is all part of my grand scheme to turn the family against her. She even tried to get Tyler to recant his statement to the police, but he refused. He's been living with his dad full-time now and has cut off all contact with Rhonda. The most disturbing part is that while going through old security footage, the police found more incidents we hadn't known about. There was a clip from last summer showing Rhonda deliberately spraying Amanda's allergen triggers, she's severely allergic to certain perfumes, in rooms before Amanda came over. The detective said this shows a clear pattern of intentional harm. Most of our extended family has finally accepted the truth about Rhonda, but they're still causing problems. My aunts and uncles have been bombarding me with calls and messages, begging me to drop the charges. They keep saying that sending Rhonda to jail won't help anyone and will only tear the family apart more. My cousin Lisa even started a family group chat called Save Rhonda where they're planning to pool money for her legal defense. My parents are trying to stay neutral, which is almost worse than taking sides. They visit Rhonda regularly but then come to our house acting like nothing's wrong. Last week, Mom suggested we all go to family therapy together. I told her that ship sailed when Rhonda tried to kill my daughter. Dad just sits there looking sad whenever anyone brings it up, saying he failed as a father because his daughters hate each other. Amanda has been doing better physically. Her new pulmonologist adjusted her medication routine and the anxiety attacks are less frequent. But she still refuses to attend any family events. Last week she broke down crying when she found out her favorite cousin's wedding is being held at a venue with a basement level. She's going to need a lot of time to heal from this trauma. Tyler comes over almost every day after school now. He's struggling with his own issues, his grades have dropped, and his dad says he's having nightmares. But he's adamant about testifying against Rhonda if the case goes to trial. He says he needs to make up for all the times he stayed quiet about her behavior. We've moved to a different neighborhood about 30 minutes away from our old house. It's closer to Amanda's new school and further from any family members. Grandfather Henry bought a small condo nearby so he can visit regularly. He's the only family member besides Tyler that we maintain regular contact with. Sometimes when I'm alone, I feel sad about losing my entire family over this. But then I remember how they all ignored the signs for years, how they dismissed Amanda's suffering as attention-seeking, and how they're still more concerned about protecting Rhonda than acknowledging the harm she caused. A family that prioritizes the abuser over the victim isn't really a family worth having. The preliminary hearing is next month. Rhonda's lawyer has already tried to contact us about a plea deal, but I won't agree to anything that lets her avoid real consequences. She made her choices, now she has to live with them.